Okay, I was thinking about a YouTube I would do about this fellow in store down in Missouri, and I'm going to go into it and see if it's maybe under 10 minutes, but it's Sheridan, Missouri. And Sheridan, Missouri is less than 10 miles from Iowa and in northwest Missouri, and it's a small town. It has, in 2020 now in the fall, it has a lot less establishments than it used to, and it didn't have many to speak of even 20 years ago. It had a lawnmower shop and I think 2 cafes. I guess it's down to one. One building was even torn down on a little strip downtown. First time I was there was in March 2002. I was looking at houses nearby and cheap houses. What they had in the middle of the strip is what I call a junk store. You might also call it a thrift store. And I lived closer to it for a long time than I am right now. But this fellow named Dave ran it, and he was a Vietnam vet. And I found out yesterday he had passed away last year. I can't keep up with people I know. There's 5 and more different areas and types of people I know that could pass, from high school relatives, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Iowa, Missouri. You get the idea. But I found out yesterday he had died last year from cancer, and it was 71. And that's 6 years older than this Van Halen, they say, died today at 65. And that's not very old. Both of these ages are older than I am, but not a heck of a lot. And I'm starting to look my age. There's a constant racket here where I am. It's making me age faster. And I will probably have to move before too long. But going into the thrift store, they call it a thrift euphemistically. I call it a junk store. He had a lot. Half of it was used books, and they were really cheap. And I guess I don't know, his wife or relatives, people in the town, would read them, and he would sell them used. Some were a few were in mint condition, brand new condition. They had been read, but others were older. Half or more were westerns, and so I didn't go in that store in 2002, but 2003 on, and 2017 or 18, I stopped because he had thefts, and he used to leave the store open during the day, business hours. You could go in. People generally would go in, he'd have some cold drinks, and they'd leave 50 cents or $1 on the desk, main desk. I would go in, and there'd be some books, and typically quarter, they varied. $1 down to a dime, typically a quarter, and some hardbacks. Some suspense, some of the modern novels. You would read now, like I said, half or more are Western, so I bought a number of Louis L'Amour books there. I gave away my Louis L'Amour books. An old fellow died who was actually named Louis Clayton. He was a neighbor for a while in Iowa. But anyway, and then I had hardly any. But then my friend gave me a whole box full a few years after that. So see, things come back to you in a good way too. But anyway, I guess this Dave fellow was a friend, but I mean, I had quite different views on things than he did. So sometimes he was mad at me, but which I mentioned on Twitter. But generally I was happy to go there. Usually I would go. I might see someone come in or not. Another customer would get a can of soda out of the little cold area, and sometimes I wouldn't see anybody. I'd leave $1, but I might get $4 for $1. I'd get something. And I bought that Santa Claus teddy bear, which I have showed a couple of times on the YouNow app sleeping area, and I'll play classical and put the teddy bear there. I did it before Christmas one year. Anyway, Uh, you would go in and it was kind of dusty, and there was a store just like this up in, well, much like this up, I guess, in Churchtown, Iowa. So way up near the Iowa-Minnesota border. I went a few times, but I like this store more. There's more things I could do with some tools. You know, $7 you might get a nice, useful thing. My coffee machine, I had no working coffee machine, and I bought a used one for $4 or $5. I mean, from the store, and I left the money. Now, in 2018, I had heard that he locked up except when he was there because someone was coming in taking the money, not just the goods and the money, so he couldn't leave it open and leave it on people's honor anymore. So just 2 or 3 years back, he stopped. He said call the number, but of course my cell phone was in a dead spot, and I couldn't call him. About maybe the last time I was there. There was a bank branch in there, that town, Sheridan. It was one bank. It got bought up by Great Western. Great Western closed it up 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know. Before the store closed. I was talking yesterday to a woman I know who was a little while at the Great Western branch of the bank in Sheridan. But anyway, you go in the store and you buy some things, leave a little money. Up in northern Iowa again, in the opposite side near the Minnesota border, there was a couple of times you could go, and even over it down here too. You could pick up a farmer would leave a stand, and again it was on your honor, and you could pick up some corn or vegetables and leave some money. And I mean, if you did, well, one guy had a box, so I mean, someone would have to break into the box in order to steal it. That was better. But you could, pick up some vegetables for $1 or $2 and leave the money. And of course, all this is fading away. But in the dusty store there, this fellow Dave was a Vietnam vet. I don't know if I mentioned it, and I'd see him maybe every third visit. And he also would have these towns would have typically little towns, including ones I lived in, would have call them tag sales, garage sales, yard sales, call them what you want. They would have them for the town like once a year, or even twice a year. But the little town I moved in, they got mad, and then it was silly. They had a squabble. I think 1 or 2 years after I was there, that was the end of it. They didn't have it anymore. But the Sheridan had some, and this fellow would participate. But one year I went, and he was about the only one. There was one 2 or 3 miles out of town supposedly, and I went driving. I said, the heck with it, because I've been through that before. You'll drive 5 miles, and then you won't even see it. Or it wasn't there yet, or you'll miss it, or it was done, or if it was last week. So, and then another one wasn't. They didn't do it that day. So I think one year I went to there, which it was for me at that time. It was like 13 miles to get there one way, not many cars on the road, so just a lesser traveled road. 13 miles isn't like going across Boston or LA or something 13 miles at all. It's just take you 14 minutes, say, and so I went there, and he was about the only one. I went to the cafe. I bought a couple of donuts or something next door. But like I said, that building, they tore down the whole building right next door to him later on. So and I was trying to think of how many books I had bought there, and there were a few nonfiction, but I mean they were mostly suspense or a few war. Mostly I would buy the westerns at the time, and I would say I probably bought 60 or 70 books. I don't know. I don't think I bought as many as 100, but it's over a number of years. And I would go down that way. Once in a while, I would stop. It was an alternate route, but it wasn't more than a mile or two out of the way, and I would go to Maryville, Missouri. Maryville was where I would go to for the Walmart typically, and I would go there a couple of times a year, and then sometimes I would stop in the just a little bit out of the way, and stop in, and you could go in if he opened it up for the weekday, you could go in and pick up a couple of bucks or 50 cents, you know. But I don't know. I got an argument once with the politics, and I don't know, something to do with books he was selling, and something to do with presidents, and I haven't liked any presidents really since JFK, which was our native son from Massachusetts in 1963, and I don't know. He got mad and he slammed the cashier's drawer, and I haven't even given him the buck and a half or whatever that day I was buying and he was there, so he was mad about it, so he slammed the door. The door to the cashier, the little, cashier's cabinet, and then he had to open it up again. I said, I didn't pay you yet. So he didn't say anything, took my money, but also last year, when I moved to this house, a cousin died and I didn't know. I found out beginning of this year. And that cousin was in the Korean War and learned Russian. He's not Russian American, but he learned Russian so he could, spy. They said listen in on the. He could spy on the Russians that were assisting the North Koreans. And I never heard much about that. But I think I'm going to stop now and put this up. And have a good day, folks.